Parents love to watch their kids succeed no matter what it's in. They will always do whatever they can to make sure that their kid is successful. But has this gone too far? And I'm talking about the youth sports world right here. Youth sports are taking over the U.S. from an economic standpoint, from a popularity standpoint, and to a culture standpoint. So let's look at how different youth sports are from when I was a kid and how when older generations were even kids. Now here's a little disclaimer. I'm not telling anyone how to raise their kids. I'm just shining light on what's happening. Alright, so first things first, let's talk about the complete culture shift in youth sports. Youth sports is a big business and it is booming. It's got $15 billion to its name. You got millions of kids participating all across the country. And you have companies like Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour sponsoring these elite youth teams that have 12 to 15-year-old kids on the teams. Speaking of those kids, some of those kids are becoming celebrities with millions of followers. So why is it so much different? Didn't it used to be just for fun? But now all we play for is a scholarship. We want to go wherever we can get college looks and just play with the best teams. But parents are also starting to force the game onto the kids. Some kids may not want to travel to Texas when you live in Minnesota. Some kids might not want to go to California and live in Florida. So why can't we just play with the teams that are close and local with our friends? So let's dive into further detail on that. The system is a little bit broken. Not completely broken because we got some nice things still there. But the kids need to stop traveling all over the country. These kids only care about getting looks from college coaches. They want to play with the best players, and they don't want to care about playing with their friends anymore. And these parents spend ridiculous amounts. They pay these elite coaches and academies, and they pay crazy amounts for travel. According to a 2017 article by Sean Gregory, a senior sports writer for Time, the cost for parents is steep. At the high end, families can spend more than 10% of their income on registration fees, travel, camps, and equipment. See, kids even know this. They know when their parents are spending ridiculous money. This puts pressure on them to perform well, because if you're spending all this money and you play really bad, that's extremely disappointing. And parents pay all this money in hopes for a scholarship, but in reality, you're probably not going to get a scholarship. Here's a visual aid to help show that. We have over 500,000 pretty much participants in each sport here, and only 3% playing college for men's basketball, 4% for women's basketball, 7% for football, and 7% for baseball. And of those tiny 3% that play in college, only 1% play in the pros, 1% play in the pros for women's too, and 1.6 play in football, and 8.6 for pro in baseball. So we need to stop paying for all these elite coaches when odds are that you're probably not going to play college. And even these high prices can drive some families out. The lower income families have no way to even play in those tournaments. Only some of these kids even get playing time when they do pay for this. Kids are at an extreme disadvantage when they're a late bloomer. Because when you're 12 and you're playing with the same kids, some might be 5'10" and you're still 5'4" and 100 pounds. These kids get no playing time because coaches don't care about development, they only care about wins. You know what? These parents still pay a ridiculous amount just for their little rinky-dink kid to sit on the bench. To sum up this section, I'd like to quote Gregory once more. He states, quote, "Fees and travel costs are pricing out lower income families. Some kids who don't show talent at a young age are discouraged from ever participating in organized sports. And those who do often chase scholarships, they have a very minuscule chance of earning." Another thing that's really sad about the youth sports culture is burnout. But what is burnout? The Children's Hospital of Colorado says that burnout is overtraining that leads to physical and mental stress. So this basically means that these kids are playing way too much of one sport and that they're overusing the same muscles and they're just getting tired of it mentally and physically. They're playing the same amount, but they're getting worse. So what causes this? The main thing is specializing, which I'll talk about that a little bit later because it's a really bad thing. Another thing that's not helping is kids aren't getting enough rest. We're sending them to trainers too often, they're practicing way too much. And you just gotta let your kids be kids. Like, these kids need time to rest and just have fun, play video games, do whatever you want. Now this is really serious because kids are losing love for something that they used to just love doing. And they're having psychological issues start at too young of an age, like depression and just overall sadness for not being good at a sport anymore. So kids need to play out of love and not to pursue scholarship. My bad. Two things that are just as bad as burnout are specialization and injuries. Alright, so what is specialization? Specialization is overemphasizing one sport and playing it at least 3 out of 4 seasons a year. That's a quote from Gregory. It makes for not well-rounded athletes because you're doing the same training for the same muscles, and if you're a basketball player, you're probably not going to be able to throw very well, like with a baseball. And if you're a swimmer, you're probably not going to be great at tennis or baseball or anything. So it's always good to get your feet wet in multiple sports. So why is it bad? It's really not that bad if you're 15 or 16 because then you know what you want to do. But like I said earlier, this leads to burnout and it can cause injuries from overusing the same muscles. And honestly, it gives no extra advantage. Elite athletes don't even do multiple sports really. According to a 2018 article by Jane Brody, a personal health writer for the New York Times, it's a myth, Dr. Popkin said, that athletes who get college athletic scholarships or become professionals in most sports begin specializing at early ages. So parents want these kids to be just like these pros and make millions of dollars and be popular, but those pros don't even do what the parents want them to do. Alright, so like I said earlier, overuse injuries are becoming way too common. According to a 2019 article by John O'Sullivan, a writer for Changing the Game Project, in a study of 1,200 youth athletes, Dr. Neeru Jayanthi of Loyola University found that early specialization in a single sport is one of the strongest predictors of injury. Athletes in the study who specialized were 70% to 93% more likely to be injured than children who play multiple sports. So it's important to play multiple sports and remember that kids are not pros. So sports can be the best thing in a childhood. You gotta love playing the game though. You gotta participate for fun. This time goes fast. You're only a kid once, and parents need to make sure that their kids are enjoying the game. Getting the best out of kids is here to stay. We're gonna keep spending money on trainers and academies, but just gotta keep in mind that this is literally just a game. And to finish, I'd like to give one more quote by O'Sullivan. They only get to be a 10-year-old once, and no matter how much ability they have, they still have a 10-year-old brain, 10-year-old needs, and 10-year-old maturity. Thanks.